Hello, welcome back to Admission and Scholarship Hacks Masterclass. I hope you've been practicing your smiling right now. Okay, give me another smile there. Okay, so today we'll be talking about the act of negotiation. The act of negotiation. This is one thing. I know I've told you to take away many things from this masterclass, right? But please add this one to it. Because when you start your admission process, there will be times when you are going to need this. The act of negotiation. What does it really mean? The act of negotiation means for you to negotiate whatever thing that is not in your favor, whatever thing that you don't see as the best thing ever, negotiate it. Now, when I say negotiate, I don't mean beg. Don't beg. Don't beg, negotiate. There's a difference. If let's say a school gave you partial scholarship and you wrote them back and you said you're really good, you saw this other scholarship they are giving, how can you get it? Or sorry, the school fees is on the high side for you, you won't be able to pay this. Do they mind giving you a 50% waiver on your school fees? Do they mind giving you a 75% waiver? That's negotiation, right? You are trying to get a better deal for yourself. This is different from begging. Some people, they'll give you admission. Let's say they give you tuition and you can pay. Say, please, I beg you, can you just reduce the school fees? My father did this. We are not where to do. You are begging. You are not negotiating. You are begging. And remember, you are an expatriate. So you will negotiate. Don't beg. Okay? Now, let me start by telling you Adora's story. I was supposed to put Adora's video here, but by the time I was preparing this slide, I was looking for the video. I didn't see it, so I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to copy the link where the video is on YouTube and show it to you. So if you have the energy, if you have the energy, and I advise you to do that, copy this YouTube link right now. Not like after this lecture, copy this YouTube link, go and check it, post it on YouTube and see the video. You see Adora's video and you'll be able to hear from Adora herself. But let me tell you what happened. So I worked with Adora. Adora was able to submit her application to a school. So when she submitted the application, she actually got the admission, and the admission came back partial scholarship. So they were going to pay for some things and they wanted her to pay for some things. So what happened was that Adora wrote back to the school and told them that she's very grateful they gave her this scholarship, but she will actually need a full scholarship in order to resume to take the program. So through negotiation, Adora was able to get the professor she was going to work with add extra money to her. So it's like the department gave her money, the professor she was going to work with gave her money, and it made up to total of full scholarship for her. So if you watch her video, you're going to hear more from her. That's what she's talking about. If she did not negotiate, if they gave her the admission, something else will have also happened. See, when they give her the admission, she takes the admission and she's like, they gave me partial scholarship. Without full scholarship, I can't resume, so I can't take the admission. And she ended it there. Then she won't have full scholarship today, right? But she didn't just ask. It was not a favorable term, so she didn't accept it. What did she do? She went back to the school to ask them for what is favorable for her. So that act of going back to the school to ask for what is favorable for you is what I mean by the act of negotiation. Okay? So I just want you to know that anybody can negotiate. You too, you can negotiate. So don't think that negotiation is for special people like Adora or for special people like Linda. I negotiate all the time. But you too can. So this negotiation doesn't mean that you have to be a superhero before you negotiate. Anybody can negotiate. And you may be asking, so what can I negotiate? Anything from IATS results. Some schools will say bring IATS. Do you know you can negotiate that? To GRE, to GMAT, any of those exams, to WES evaluation, all those odd requirements, you can negotiate them. You can negotiate your school fees. let's say they ask you to pay a particular school fees and you don't have that amount of money. Even if you have it but you want to negotiate a better deal, you can negotiate with the school and they will actually reduce it for you. And see, if you don't negotiate, you don't get anything. If you negotiate, you may get something or you may not. So you are never going to be at a loss because you negotiated. Instead, the worst case scenario is that they say no, right? And that is the same result with if you didn't negotiate. Or at best, they'll just say yes, right? And then you have yourself a good deal. Anything can be negotiated. Your scholarship can be negotiated. Don't think that they're going to think that you are not you are not grateful. We gave you partial scholarship, you're negotiating for full scholarship. That's not how it works here. Even if you have that in your mind, that's not how it works here. So you should negotiate anytime the atmosphere is not favorable for you, the deal is not favorable for you, negotiate. Okay, sometimes they will give let's say they gave you full scholarship. Well, maybe at that point there will be nothing to negotiate, but maybe they gave you full scholarship but they also said bring IELTS. You can still negotiate IELTS, right? So you can negotiate anything, and including the things I have not mentioned today. I remember, okay, I'm just going to give you examples, right? I remember Rachel's case. So this is what we did with Rachel. So Rachel was applying to a program. She read computer science also. So she was applying for masters in computer science. The schools, on the school website, they said they need GRE. So Rachel came to meet me and was like, this school said they need GRE. What should I do? I told her, go and negotiate, right? So that means you, in your case, you won't be coming back to me because now you know what to do. You go and negotiate. So one thing that we actually told the school, first she asked for waiver. The school said they can't waive it. She didn't stop there. She asked for what we call condition of admission. Condition of admission, meaning that a school, let's say a school wants you to write GRE, right, which is an exam, and you cannot write that GRE now, or you don't want to write that GRE now. You can ask them to put it as a condition to your admission. Meaning, when they give you admission, they will now write this admission is conditioned on the fact that you are going to submit your GRE grade, so that you only go and start writing that exam after you have gotten admission, instead of going to write the exam before admission when you don't know whether the school is going to give you admission or not. Don't think that, oh, they will think I'm not a serious student. No, that's why I say negotiate, don't beg. When you beg, you are not serious. But when you negotiate, it's negotiation. The worst case is that they will say, no, we're not going to accept that, right? So Rachel was actually able to negotiate her GRE, and it was put as a condition on her admission, since she wasn't able to get them to waive it. Also, negotiation can go either way, right? Don't be so rigid. When you are negotiating, be also ready to move grounds. Now, let me tell you the Ufoma's story. Ufoma's story was that she got admission. The admission letter actually read that she needs to submit this admission is conditioned on IELTS. She came to meet me. She's from Nigeria. Nigeria is an English-speaking country, meaning that ideally she's not supposed to need IELTS, right? So when the former came to meet me, I told her, have you negotiated? Go and negotiate with the graduate coordinator. Part of negotiation for IELTS, for example, could actually be, can I submit another means of you verifying that I speak English? For example, you can submit, let's say you can submit your school transcripts and a letter from your university saying that you studied in English in place of IELTS. The university where I finished from, it is called language of instruction. So it's a letter from the university showing that my language of instruction was in English, right? And the school can accept that in place of IELTS. I've worked with somebody else. She was applying to Oxford. They asked her for English language proof. So normal people would just go and get IELTS. But what did she do? When she came to meet me that, oh, this school is asking her for English language proof, I told her there's a website where they actually list. There's a website, I think is WHED, WHED.net also. They list the different schools and whether English or any other English or any other language of instruction, they will list it there. You can actually go to that website, screenshot the name of your school, right? Screenshot the name of your school and the where they wrote that English is the language of instruction, and submit it to your graduate coordinator, and they will be able to accept it. That lady actually came back and told me that they accepted her. Okay, so now back to former story. She went back to the school. You know what the graduate coordinator said? The graduate coordinator told her, sorry, you don't need IELTS. That is after they gave her admission and said it is conditioned on IELTS. She went back to negotiate. She would have had the option of going to write the IELTS, right? But when she went back to the graduate coordinator said, sorry, you don't need IELTS. This is a general requirement that was sent to everybody. But because you're from English-speaking country, you don't need IELTS. If she didn't go back to negotiate, she would have gone to write the exam. And it's when she now returned back to submit the exam result and they will not tell you at that point because it's too late. They just collect it, but you wouldn't know that it didn't mean anything, right? So resumption date is also something that can be negotiated. I remember when we initially started this course, a client took this course, and after she saw what she could negotiate, right? They gave her admission. The admission came late, and she wasn't going to be able to meet up. So she went to the school and said, defer my admission. I think they had initially told her that they can't defer it or something. And she came back to me and said, have you negotiated with them? She was able to actually move it to the next semester, right? So you can negotiate everything. So this particular person was able to negotiate her resumption dates. Now, let me give you another thing, is that you can negotiate your funding. I know I've mentioned that, but I wanted to give you an example. So Daniel applied to a school in US. US is very notorious for giving partial scholarship. So they gave him partial scholarship, and Daniel was not still going to be able to pay the rest of the program. So Daniel wrote the graduate coordinator, right? So after some back and forth communication, one day Daniel got an email that read that, you see, hi Daniel, said thank you for sending a follow-up email. You see, Daniel followed up, said, I appreciate your persistence with your graduate enrollment. I'm reading from the screen. I appreciate your persistence from the graduate enrollment. And I say, I presented your application to ITEP. I don't know what that means. ITEP faculty for GA or RA. GA is graduate assistantship or research assistantship consideration, and they accepted. You are not being considered as a research assistant working 10 hours per week for either Dr. Morris or Dr. Warden or Dr. Griffin. So as the process takes its course, either I or the program director will contact you, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, what am I trying to say? This guy, Daniel did not get full scholarship initially, but he kept pestering the school, asking for other funding that can be added to the funding they already gave to him. So eventually they approved a research assistantship or graduate assistantship or research assistantship position, meaning that they were going to be paying him extra $8,000 every month. Not every month, every semester. That brings it to about $2,000 every month. Right? Of course, with that, he was able to, it became a full scholarship for him because he was able to cover his tuition as well as living expenses. If he did not negotiate, he will be somewhere back in his home country right now saying, I didn't get the scholarship. But sometimes your admission comes without scholarship and you're able to negotiate further. And mind you, Daniel was not applying for research-based program. Many course-based programs have the opportunity for you to work with the professor, either as a graduate assistant or as a research assistant. Many schools have that opportunity. For example, that is one of the questions you can actually ask your graduate coordinator. When you're applying to a program, you can ask them, do you have opportunity for graduate assistantship or research assistantship or teaching assistantship? They may just tell you, yes, here is the link, apply, right? So, be proactive. Who do you negotiate with? Usually you negotiate with the graduate coordinator, because that's the person that you're constantly in communication with, and you can email them or you can call them over the phone. Preferably email them, except it's urgent, then you can call. And when you want to call a country, remember to add the country code. For a long time when I was searching schools abroad, I always felt that their number don't used to go through, because every time I'll come and dial the number that they will have put on the website, right? I'll dial the number, and then I'll notice that it's not going through. What's going on? Until one day, I don't even know how that happened. I can't remember the story now. And then that was how I learned to add the country code. So when you're calling, call with the country code. Also, make sure you're calling them during their office hour or work hour, because you are probably in another country. So when you are calling, you may be calling in your afternoon, but that may be their midnight. All right, so you don't want to be calling somebody when they are in midnight. Moreover, they will not pick your call. Then you feel that maybe your work always give you break around 2 p.m. right, your time, but that 2 p.m. may be 10 p.m. somewhere else. And maybe anytime during your break you come out and try to call the graduate coordinator, he will not pick. You'll be like, I'm always calling this graduate coordinator, their number is not going through. Have you checked what time it is in the graduate coordinator's time zone? Right? So make sure that you take note of that when you're calling over phone. But email is always the preferred method. So the question is, when do you negotiate? Preferably negotiate anything before admission is given, because sometimes the admission committee have to sit down to decide. So when you negotiate before admission, you have a higher likelihood of getting what you're asking for. However, if it's the case that the admission is already out, let's say the admission is out and they say write exam, right? That's when you want to negotiate. You can still negotiate after the admission is given. Which time is better? Of course, I said, but you can still negotiate after. Bear that you can negotiate anytime, because let's assume that you couldn't negotiate before admission, or you ended up not negotiating before admission. When is the next best time? Now is the time to negotiate. That moment when you identify what you should negotiate about, that's the best time to negotiate. Now, I would say be tenacious, right? You are exceptional. You are unique. You are an expert trait. Hope you've not forgotten. So, negotiate, don't beg. Negotiate, don't beg. Okay? Alright, so I hope you keep these words of advice with you as you move on with your study abroad. I hope you keep this advice with you, because that's extremely very important. That's extremely very important. Negotiate until you get what you want. Be steadfast, be consistent with your negotiation. Alright? So, alright, till I see you in the next lecture.